Welcome to What's My Tagline, a show where we put the microphone in front of the people who are typically behind the scenes, those responsible for marketing, sales, social media, PR, and event management. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of What's My Tagline. I'm your host, Carol Flagg. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'm very excited about today's episode as I welcome my fellow colleague, Saul Marquez, to the show today. Saul is the founder of Outcomes Rocket, a full-service marketing agency specializing in working with business entities whose clients are hospitals, health systems, and payers. He joins me to talk about the three pillars of marketing: owned, earned, and paid, and we'll share a tip for each to help you get some quick wins. Saul, welcome to the show, and thanks for calling in from Puerto Rico.
Carol, such a pleasure to be here with you and your audience. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was thinking like you're in Puerto Rico on an island where it's humid and warm, and I'm in Arizona where it's still a blistering 110 degrees in the desert.
Oh
Like, like
man,
could be further apart. But yet
I
here we
know.
are talking for the show. So great to
It's a
great to
pleasure.
chat. Yeah. So before we talk about the three pillars of marketing and the topic for today's show, as you know, my first question of all my guests is if you had to describe yourself as a tagline, what would it be?
A servant of people that want to transform healthcare. That
Ooh,
would be the tagline.
yeah. And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've always been driven by doing more for really the people that have made a difference in my life. When I was a kid, I was playing on the jungle gym back when playgrounds used to be dangerous. They didn't have like the you remember that, Carol?
Oh, I so remember that.
Like they didn't have rubber floors, like they had
No.
cement floors.
Yeah.
I climbed to the top of this jungle gym and fell backwards,
Ooh.
hit my head, ended up in the hospital. It was tough. They took care of me. I got out, and as I was driving away from the hospital, I remember just being in awe
Mm.
at what the doctors and the nurses did just to make me be better. And ever since that day, I've always looked at healthcare and healthcare providers and the healthcare system in awe. And I've always asked myself, what can I do to help them and to do more? And that's why I've been in healthcare for almost 20 years now.
Yeah. That's a great story and a great segue, because before we are gonna get to the three pillars of marketing, but before we do, just spend a few minutes of your time sharing with our audience, your career journey in healthcare, those 20 years, and how Outcomes Rocket came to be.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks for the opportunity on that, Carol. And look, I can tell you that so been in healthcare for just under 20 years. Much of that was serving in the medical devices field, wearing different hats, sales, marketing. I climbed up the ladder to an executive position. My last role, while I was still in med device, was with Medtronic. And I just had the career that I wanted. It was my dream. There comes a point where, for I think all of us, your assets become your liabilities. And I hit this point in my career where like many folks listening, maybe they were frustrated. Like many folks listening, I was feeling like there was too much red tape for me to be as innovative as I wanted to be. And like many people listening, I also felt like my ideas were getting shelved, and I had a
Mhm.
lot of them. And there was the day that I made the phone call, Carol. I made the phone call. I was so nervous. My palms were sweating. My heart was beating out of my chest. The night before I had chatted with my wife, we had made the decision that I was going to be leaving that career and going into entrepreneurship. Because she knew, right? She knew that I wanted to do more. I knew I wanted to do more. And maybe folks listening are at that point right now. And what I want to do is encourage you to make the move, because when I made that phone call, it was my 2 week notice to my boss. I knew I had my wife's support. And that was the jumping off point where I said, I'm done climbing the ladder. Our mission today is we're on a mission to help 5,000 healthcare companies impact care and do so successfully, because the statistics, Carol, and I'll wrap up with the stats, are staggering. It's 50% of all companies fail within 5 years. and 97% fail within 10 years. The number one reason they fail is lack of product demand. And
Wow.
if you're a
Yeah.
business that's seeking to innovate in healthcare, you shouldn't fail. And we're on a mission to make you help you succeed.
Yeah. So be a servant and be a risk taker at the same time.
Amen. Calculated risk.
Yeah,
Calculated
exact
risk.
calculated risk. So, okay, the three pillars of marketing: owned, earned, and paid. The first
Mhm.
logical question before we talk about each one of these is, what is your rationale for saying that the three pillars of marketing are owned, earned, and paid media?
Sure. Yeah. I would tell you, Carol, and everybody with us today, that if anybody tries to complicate marketing beyond that, they're trying to sell you something. Um, like, let's just be honest, they are. And look, it's fine, right? Like, we're all in business, right? And so we're here to serve each other. But if they try to complicate it, just know that it's a lot simpler than that. Anything that you do in marketing falls either under owned media, earned media, or paid media. And so when you think about owned media is all about the assets that are yours, your website, your SEO initiatives, your social channels, those kinds of things, even your podcast, right? If you have a podcast or your webinar platform, whatever you're doing that you own. Then you have everything that's earned. Earned is what we call like OPS, other people's stages.
I had another word in mind when you said that, but that's okay.
Oh boy, here we go.
Sorry, sorry.
No, it's all good. And when you're dealing with other people's stages, you're sort of, those are earned opportunities. So, you come with a unique perspective and an opportunity to tell your story to an audience that somebody like Carol, like you, Carol, you've 16 years, right? You've been building this for 16 years. This is a privilege, and I don't take it lightly to have the opportunity to be here with you and your audience, Carol. So this earned opportunity, I intend to add a ton of value to all the listeners. And then finally, there's paid. Paid is all about the opportunity to target your key audiences and maximize the value that you're putting out there because you've done what you could organically, and now you just want to accelerate growth.
These three pillars: owned, earned, and paid. Uh,
Yeah.
just the question, and this may not be one that you can answer and may depend on the circumstances, but do you have like a general guidepost that you use as far as like, hey, 60% of your marketing should be around, owned, 30, 20, or is that not the right way to look at that?
That's a really great question. I would tell you that it depends. However, what I would tell you, it depends on where you're at with your business and what your goals are. So there's no like one size fits all. But very simply put, I would tell you that if you don't have your owned and earned in place, you probably shouldn't be doing paid yet.
Oh, that's a
So
great point. Yeah.
yeah, like I would tell you, owned is first, earned is second, paid is third. At the risk of just, saying one size fits all, but I think in general that definitely is the case.
Yeah. All right. So owned media, I think everybody
Hmm.
listening in understands what that means. Obviously, these assets are yours. Like you already said, website, podcast, webinar, ebook, and
Email
what?
list.
Email list. Exactly. It's your content. It's what it is that you do and put out there for visitors to check out, right? Or to get people
Exactly.
to check out when they get there. With what's happened, I don't want to say since COVID, but let's just say, with this, the digital world that we all live in. I
Hmm.
think everybody struggles with an owned assets, getting people to do things on their website. People don't obviously spend zero time now on corporate websites. People
Hmm.
are reluctant to open email campaigns. People are reluctant to sign up for webinars or download a white paper. So I think this is a world that we're all struggling to navigate as
Hmm.
people use their smartphones to look at these things, or concerns about phishing and cybersecurity and look at all the changes Outlook has made to, do you trust this sender? This is unverified. Everything is pushing towards, I think from a security standpoint, changing the game, as is people's time. So owned assets for a company. What is the tip that you want to share with our audience as it relates to owned media?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Carol. Like since you went there, you talked about websites, right? And you get people to your site, and maybe they're not opting in for the stuff you're offering them. This is a huge opportunity for you to really make some big leaps forward in getting more leads and interested customers into your ecosystem. So it's basically called conversion rate optimization. Conversion rate is all about turning a visitor into a lead, right? And the optimization process is what you do in order to do that. The optimization process is all about looking at three critical components. So when you have your website, you have to ask yourself, what is the user interface and user experience, right? What is it that people are doing when they get there? The second piece is am I taking into consideration my key audience, and am I speaking in their language with words that they would use, not words of an expert? Oftentimes what we do to ourselves, we spend so much time in the business that we use expert language. And so are we using words that resonate with our key audience? And then finally is really taking a look at the integration of your site with other channels of marketing, because anybody, like, it's very simple to say, hey, you know what, websites don't work, email doesn't work, social media doesn't work. How many times have we heard that, Carol? Like a
Right,
lot,
right.
right?
A lot.
So what I want to dispel here today is that no matter what you're doing, you have to approach this in an omni-channel strategy. So it's a very fancy way of saying you got to do at least 3 or 4 things in order for one thing to convert. So
Right.
like if we're talking about your website, the tip here is, if you're going to start optimizing your conversion rate, one tip that I see many people don't do is leveraging recording session platforms such as Hotjar or Crazy Egg or
Oh,
Inspectlet. Those are 3 versions of the same thing: Hotjar, Inspectlet, or Crazy Egg. And there's others, but those are the top 3. We personally really like Hotjar. And what it does is, this is what we say to people. Like, guys and gals, if you do this today, like if you install Hotjar or Inspectlet or Crazy Egg, we don't get sponsored by any of them, but we believe that they make a difference. Google Analytics gives you the numbers. So that's the quantitative information. Hotjar and these other softwares give you the qualitative information. So that you are literally getting screen capture of where people are clicking, what they're looking at, where they're going. This is so important. And it also includes heat maps. And what you're going to find is what we find every time if we're designing a site or optimizing a site. We do a lot of optimization. People don't make it beyond the fold. Like that's like the top home screen
sure, sure.
section.
Yeah,
Like your
yeah.
heat maps are mostly there, like 85, 90%. Unless you really give them a reason, you leave cookie crumbs and you design it in a way that adds value and gets them to want more. So really, by understanding where people are going, you make information, you make data informed decisions on the changes that you're making on your site, so that they're meeting your customers where they are. You're seeing where they're clicking. If a session ends up with on a blank page, you're getting visibility to all that. So long story short, there is making sure you're visualizing all the stuff that's happening on your site, and you're designing according to that. You're going to be one step closer to more leads from your website.
Yeah, yeah. Help these visitors down the yellow brick road to the Emerald City. I got it. That's awesome.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, earned media, which of course is media that you don't pay for. These are obviously
Mm-hmm.
quotes or placements or article publications in the media. That's what they are. I think everybody understands what that is. People hire
Mm-hmm.
PR companies every single day, or work with PR companies today for earned media placements. I am curious to know what your tip is to help with a quick win on earned media. I think that that is another area that's become more difficult for
Yeah,
agencies to get placements, as you know, for and lots of different reasons. We could do a whole episode just on that. But
we definitely could.
yeah, yeah. Okay, we're going to plan that. Okay, but I digress. All right. So, earned media, how to get earned media. What is a tip for a quick win?
Yeah, and you know what? Earn media. There's a lot of opportunities. Well, I'll call out the problem.
Oh, yes.
One of the biggest problems that we have specifically in healthcare is that supply severely is below the demand. The supply of journalists
Right.
and editors far below what the demand for the companies and things that are out there to get spots. So this has created a really tough environment for what I would call traditional earned media. That's pitching outlets and getting either an op-ed or an article or an interview, right? So what I encourage folks to think about for quick wins is that think of it as sort of like a ladder, and getting those pieces on these outlets, these interviews, they're critical. However, if you start small and build up, you could actually get there and get small wins. One common example that people don't really appreciate is that earned media can also be things like reviews.
Oh,
And
sure.
so
Yeah.
oftentimes when you have a PR company, they'll do media pitching, but they'll also do reputation management. This is third party sources. Earned media can be reviews. So if you don't have enough reviews, earned media could be you going to customers and saying, hey, can you give me some reviews? Earned media can also be UGC, user generated content. This is one of my favorites, by the way. So, like, you're out there and you're engaging with your audience on social media. Healthcare's biggest on LinkedIn, then there's X, and then Instagram, right? And so, whatever platform you prefer, you're engaging with your ideal audience, your ideal customer, with colleagues. And when somebody says something great about what you do in a comment, that's user generated content, that's earned media. So, what many people don't realize is that they could take something from social media, pull it into a newsletter, or bring it into a slide deck because it's stuff that people saying about you. Like earned media is you have earned the opinion about people in the market about what you and your business does. So quick wins there are pull stuff in from the day-to-day things that you're doing. There's wins there. And then secondly, the thing that I'll say around getting more, because press begets press, right? Once you get some
Right,
press,
of
people
course.
say
Yeah. Yeah.
you've been de-risked, right? Like people are like, oh, well, they were on this outlet. Maybe I could consider them over here. And so the opportunity here for folks to know is if you want to really hit it out of the park, do things that don't scale. Because if press begets press, the best thing you could do is not forget that people are behind everything. And the
Right.
best way you can have an impact and get an opportunity is to get to know the journalists, get to know the editors. And when I tell you do things that don't scale, like literally go out of your way to get to know them. Find them at a conference, get to know them personally, find out what they're covering. Obviously, you're probably reading their material. So know what they're covering and don't ask them for anything. Just get to know them, right?
Get
Build that
yes.
relationship.
Yeah, get to know them, check out what they're doing on LinkedIn and X. And hey, buy them a lunch or something. It's kind of old school,
Yes.
but yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never, I have to say, I never thought about comments on LinkedIn as, in essence, a form of earned media. But when you say that, like the light bulb went off, and I went, well, yes, of course, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll give you a concrete example of recently. So, we do, for in our agency, we do own, earn, paid, right? We help clients in each of these. We had a customer that wanted to start doing paid media with us, LinkedIn ads. And I said, well, here, I'm going to send you a couple links. And they were links to LinkedIn posts where people were talking us up on the stuff we're doing for them, like great testimonials. And we got to think about using these things to help because and they'll see because it's organic, right, Carol? Like you go into the post and you see that it was a post and then the interactions there unprompted, which is so cool. We got this thing from a customer that said, "You guys are crushing it on ads for us. Love it. Like LinkedIn and Meta ads are converting, and we love working with you guys. Like that's the best. Don't lose it. It's there, right? Make it work for you."
Yeah, obviously, obviously, paid media is near and dear to near and dear to my heart. Uh, it's the obviously our 100% of our revenue model
Yeah,
is paid. That's not true. I should say that we have quite a few earned media, uh, obviously opportunities as well, and we have a history of
sure.
that, especially in Health IT Answers from a syndication standpoint, and have given a lot of earned media over 15, 16 years to the community. But I do see, I guess, because obviously we are do some paid media. And when I think of paid media, I do think of hey, they're spending money. That includes things like thought leadership on webinars. That includes dedicated e-pies. That includes the things that are really related to lead gen. And hopefully you and I are on the same page here when we talk about
Definitely.
paid media. But even that has changed. COVID had a big impact on paid media simply because the conference situation went away. Now conferences are back.
Hmm.
I do see some sponsors and clients and prospects of ours talking about the difficulty on their own. I think these days, they're doing a webinar and they're getting 30 people registered, right? Or heaven forbid, they're trying to pay to get somebody to download their white paper. It's difficult, again, sort of especially on a lead gen standpoint, to
Yeah.
get people to do something on a website to register for content where they have to give up their email. So hopefully, you're going to share a tip that will benefit the audience, but maybe benefit me too as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Carol. You know what? To your point, paid media has different, a lot of different outlets. All the stuff that you guys offer are phenomenal examples of great paid options, whether it be webinars, whether it be conferences, paying for attendance, whether it be social media or programmatic ads. And really the one common denominator amongst all of them is that you are working with a platform or a media organization that has aggregated your ideal client base or audience to power up that message so that you could get conversions and you could get leads. And so from that perspective, if you are what I'll say is the really nice thing about doing webinars, for example, with you guys is that unlike doing paid media on LinkedIn or Meta or TikTok or one of those, we're actually able to get leads from an event. So you're not actually needing people to all go and sign up and convert. The first conversion is going to the site and giving you their info, right? That's the first conversion. We talked about that under owned, under conversion rate optimization. But the nice thing about partners like media organizations is that they send the invite out and now you're going to promote this webinar and now you're going to have a captive audience, but you also get a list, which is hugely valuable and I think less complicated than putting an ad campaign out on LinkedIn.
Right.
LinkedIn's very easy too, but a lot of people get overwhelmed with all the technical aspects. And by the way, if you ever gone into LinkedIn and felt discouraged by their ads platform, one of the things that I'll tell you is that it's super buggy.
Oh,
So like
it is buggy and expensive.
it is and expensive and
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
So I guess so two tips. The first one is if you're not ready for those platforms, then work with partners like Carol and her team to get in front of your ideal audience. That's huge. Like that's such a big opportunity. Then secondly, for those of you that have a little more confidence in social paid ads, I'm going to give you a tip that is literally going to blow your mind, and I'll keep it simple because here it is. So whenever you do paid ads, just like with email, you have the cold layer, you have the warm layer, and then you have the bottom kind of higher intent layer. In your cold layer, people don't know you. So you're serving them ads, a new audience. You're serving them ads for the first time. The tip is start on LinkedIn with your cold ad, clearly define your audience. You could either define it with the platform or you could upload a list. You got to have at least 300 emails and you upload a list and then the platform will create a like audience and it'll show you a match rate. So you'll know if you've got the right match. So once you create that or define it within the audience factors, you run the campaign. What you want to do, here's the secret. I'm literally going to give you guys the secret.
Here we
The secret is you want to get them to go to your website. On the cold layer, you really don't want to get an email, but you want to send them to your website. On your website, before you launch the campaign, you want to load the Meta Pixel, the Facebook Pixel. Essentially, it's a code that when you do ads through Facebook, you just put it in your on the back end of your website. Just tell your web person to do it. If it sounds complicated, it's so easy. Just have them do it. Oh yeah, like oh, the pixel. Yeah, just send us the pixel. And then the insights tag, the LinkedIn insights tag, which is essentially another fancy way of saying a code that LinkedIn gives you that you put on your site. All these things do. These are GDPR compliant ways of gathering information on the people that visit your site. So on average in healthcare, you're paying about between $75 and $175 per lead. You actually shrink that cost down on average between $12 and $20 on Meta. And a lot of the people that are on LinkedIn are also on Meta. They don't use it the same and they don't define themselves as their roles in work inside of Meta. So what you do is your cold layer, you target it to your target audience. And the thing you want to do is it always has to be 90 days or more. If you think you're going to get anywhere with paid media in less than 90 days, then don't do it.
Forget about it. Yeah.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
So we are, I hate to say this, but we are literally out of time.
All right.
Yeah,
no problem.
I'm going to have you back, but we have about 30 seconds left. So
let's do it.
Tell people where they should find you.
If anybody wants to reach out to us, if you feel like your moment is here to make a difference, if you're doing more than $1 million in business or you've raised more than 5 million in venture capital, we want to work with you. We can make the biggest impact for you. Outcomesrocket.com/grow is where you could find us for a 20-minute blueprint session on expanding on any of the tips that we covered today.
Yeah. We have to learn more. I'm going to have you back because I feel like we're the tip of the iceberg here. But you can learn more about
Appreciate
Saul.
It, Carol.
You're welcome. Learn more about Saul, his podcast, his agency, everything Outcomes Rocket does at outcomesrocket.com. And as he said, outcomesrocket.com/grow. And be sure to connect with him on LinkedIn. You can learn more about this show on the program page on healthcaniradio.com. And be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, I want to know, what's your tagline?